Firewood or Firelogs, which one is better? So both have some pros and cons. First, these Firelogs are pretty much made only from wood chips or sawdust, and they don't have any glue or adhesives or stuff like that. They're simply compressed wood chip with extremely high force basically. So both are very clean materials, and when you burn them you get very little ash, as firewood has bark basically that creates most of the ash. This creates very little ash. Okay, first positive about the Firelogs is you don't have to dry them, and they're extremely dry, and they come prepacked in basically plastic packaging, and yeah, they're ready to go. Whereas the regular firewood, you obviously have to season it for at least a year before you can burn it. And with these guys, there's very little work basically. Unlike regular firewood, you don't really have to split them or pretty much basically put in any work with them. Okay, one positive with regular firewood is you can store it pretty much anywhere outside, as long as it's covered somewhere. With these ones, yeah, you have to keep them inside basically. They do come prepackaged in a plastic wrapping like this, but still some of them might get holes, and if you store them outside, they will basically swell and absorb moisture. Okay, one positive about the wood logs is, especially if they're square ones, they are very compact and you can store basically a lot of heat power in very little space. There are no loose space here as well compared to regular firewood. Then compared to regular firewood, you get a very even heat, and it's not harsh at all. And you can basically burn this. If you place some inside, they'll burn for a very long time, maybe around 3 hours even, or like that. Again, depending on the kind you get. There are some that are actually made from only wood bark, and they can last the whole night basically and sustain heat, for example when you are sleeping very well. And yeah, in your room you don't get huge temperature fluctuations basically with wood, these briquettes basically, unlike with firewood. It's very even temperature and very pleasant actually. However, the main drawback of them is the exact opposite of that, because they don't produce heat very fast basically, and it takes around maybe 40 minutes before you start feeling actually a good heat in your house when you use these. Compared to regular firewood, you get a heat in pretty much instant, in like 10 minutes. However, you can solve that problem quite easily, as most people do. They basically start the first fire with regular firewood and let it burn out, and then start using these firewood logs basically to sustain very even heat. Then also, compared to regular firewood, these they are much harder to basically light up and start fire with, especially these square ones. These round ones with a hole inside are a bit easier, but still you need quite an effort to light these up. And if you actually check out my other videos, I have a very good guide on how you can light these up effortlessly basically. Hey, what about the actual heat output? So generally from 1 kilo or pound of this wooden briquette, you are basically going to get the same heat output as from 1 kilo of firewood, as long as the wood species are pretty much the same. Generally, in most cases, most of these wood firelog logs are actually produce a bit more heat than firewood when you check the values out. This is mainly because firewood has a bark on it that doesn't produce very much heat, and that's basically where your ash comes from. Also, the firewood isn't as dry, so if it's not well seasoned, it has a lot of moisture, a lot of energy will be basically spent in basically getting rid of the water from the firewood, and that wastes energy. These ones, they're extremely dry. I think they're around 7% water, around 8 or something like that. Regular firewood will be around 15% if it's well seasoned. If it's not properly seasoned, it can be like 40 or 50 percent moisture. So yeah, again, these don't need to be seasoned and you get very huge heat output. These ones, if you don't properly season, the heat output from the same amount of wood will be less, obviously. Okay, what about the price? Basically, how much heat you are getting from your money. So generally, if you purchase these in bulk, they pretty much cost the same amount to heat your home. Or again, you need to be very careful and inspect the quality of them and from what wood they are made from, and basically, yep, and the price, and also consider how much the firewood will cost you. In some cases it's mostly even, or maybe these are 10 or 20% more expensive to burn than firewood, or obviously they're much more compact and much more convenient than firewood. Again, you need to do a good calculation and purchase them in bulk, since they'll be cheaper that way. Also, these square ones, at least here, are a bit cheaper than these round ones, so I use these really. These ones I just get a few because you can break them apart very easily to start fire easily. And overall, guys, if you can't get a very cheap or free firewood and you need to pay for your heating material basically, then these wooden fire logs are actually a better option. They might cost maybe 10% more or the same, really, depending on where you purchase and how you purchase and what kind of deals you get. However, again, they're so much more compact and you can store them inside, and you don't really have to go outside to fetch firewood as well, and you can store a lot of heat in a very small space. And the heat output is very gentle, and it sustains for a very long time compared to firewood. So that's another plus. You can basically chuck in a few of them and go on your merry way for a few hours, and it will sustain heat in your home very evenly. So again, since these don't have bark, they produce very little ash that you have to clean, and your chimney also will be cleaner than when you're burning firewood basically. But this will depend basically on the kind of wood species that's used to make these as well. Whereas these are generally cleaner to burn than firewood. And yep, when you get the firewood logs, basically there's zero work. Basically, you don't have to saw them to lengths, you don't have to chop them or season them or carry around somewhere. And yeah, there's basically zero work. And they're extremely convenient basically and produce very good heat, and there aren't really negative things about these, apart from that at the start they take quite some time to start producing heat. However, you can just keep some firewood for lighting up your stove, so you will have instant heat as well. Overall, very great stuff, and I highly recommend them. Anyway, if you want to check an easy way how you can light them, check out my channel. I have a very good guide on how to do it, because these are quite hard to light up.